water, air. Wait, no, that's the wrong order. What? Water, earth, fire, air. Wait, what was the order of avatar? We're doing Conjure Elemental.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air.
5th level Conjuration, casting time of 1 minute, range of 90 feet, components verbal somatic material, burning incense for air, soft clay for earth, sulfur and phosphorus for fire, or water and sand for water. Duration, concentration, up to 1 hour. You call forth an elemental servant. Choose an area of air, earth, fire, or water that fills a 10-foot cube within range. An elemental of challenge rating 5 or lower, appropriate to the area you chose, appears in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of it. For example, a fire elemental emerges from a bonfire, and an earth elemental rises up from the ground. The elemental disappears when it drops to 0 hit points or when the spell ends. The elemental is friendly to you and your companions for the duration. Roll initiative for the elemental, which has its own turns. It obeys any verbal commands that you issue to it, no action required by you. If you don't issue any commands to the elemental, it defends itself from hostile creatures, but otherwise takes no actions. A new clause. If your concentration is broken, the elemental doesn't disappear. Instead, you lose control of the elemental. It becomes hostile towards you and your companions, and it might attack. An uncontrolled elemental can't be dismissed by you, and it disappears 1 hour after you summoned it. The DM has the elemental statistics. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 6th level or higher, the challenge rate increases by 1 for each slot level above 5th. See, that's a better upcast. Though, this one has a few more interesting caveats compared to Conjure Celestial or some of the other Conjure spells. 1, 5 CR for 5th level. I can see that a bit more worth it, especially with the elemental types that are all around 5 CR. Those are the mainstay elementals, which do have some good utility or some great uses and good combat effects that can be added on. Water with grappling, earth with its earth meld and just straw force, air with throwing things around, and fire, I mean, it sets stuff on fire. Though, one of the weird things that kind of nerfs this a bit, one is the 1 minute casting time, so you need to be able to have a minute free without combat. This isn't instantaneous in the middle of combat, which is fine if you ask me for the utility that some of these can bring. That's the way I see it being used, at least in some of my games, is a lot of times they use Earth Meld. Weirdly, as having an elemental spy, someone can speak primordial in the party in rough translation. But the other nerf, even though you have to have material components, that is not a gold cost, so, you know, a focus can take care of that. It doesn't take care of the fact you have to have a specific target location you summon it. Sure, it's within 90 feet, but it needs to be a specific location within that 90 feet, and only 10 feet away from that. AKA a 10-foot cube of whatever element that is, and it has to fill that 10-foot cube. That's a lot. For some of these, air, I mean, you're virtually going to be fine wherever you are, unless you're underwater. You usually summon an air elemental, probably the most you're going to summon with this. Second is earth. You're on the ground, you can summon it, pretty easy. Water, if you're near pools of water, or a lake, a big enough fountain, you can summon it a bit easier. The hard one, and probably the one that would be most, like, just in the middle of combat, would be fire. That has to be a 10-foot cube of fire. You could definitely make it, or if you're in a battlefield or a burning village, yeah, it comes up, but you're not really going to see a 10-foot cube of fire that often, unless it's being made purposely, where everything else you likely stumble upon. And different varieties for different games. I don't see a 10-foot cube of fire coming up that often. Disappears when drops 0 hit points, yes. Friendly to you, but if your concentration is broken, you can't dispel it. It's there for the remainder of the hour. If you're asking me lore reasons wise, I think that's because you summoned it through a gateway to an extent. That 10-foot cube, whatever that is. Everything else you're spontaneously bringing, so you're holding it there. But the elemental, you had to kind of pull it from something. And that something's still there, likely? Anyway, that's DM explanation, semantic stuff. But that losing control of it for an hour, in which it might attack you, I mean, depends what you're having it do, depends how your DM or game master runs the table, or how elementals or extraplanar things react to mortal creatures. You know, it can be... Yeah, I mean, that can hurt. That can hurt having a CR5 creature then, especially at the level you get this, but, you know, a bit later, immediately turn on you. That wouldn't be that good. Though the upcasting, way better than the 2-level jumps of some of the other spells, and God's leagues better than Conjure Celestial, which started at 4th, at 7th, and then upcasted to 5 CR after you cast it to 9th level. This CR goes up by 1 for each level you cast. I find that fine, because elemental-wise, the 5th level, the 5 CR stat blocks on them are already really good, and in general, it's kind of worth it, upcasting to an equal CR. I mean, especially later levels, probably 7th, 8th, 9th, or 8th, 9th, probably not worth it, but depending on the elemental, Merids, I can't think of all of them at the moment, so like the other Conjure spells, listed below, bring your suggestions, your stories. What have you summoned? What's the best use for it? Though, After all that, I'd have to give this spell a 7 out of 10. The summons that you can get with this at base level are just really good. I guess the issue of the limited restriction, up to an hour. The other issue I can only see with it is if you lose concentration on it, it then goes out of control, but it says it might attack you. So, 7 out of 10. Again, when it comes to raid and conjure spells, I'm just going to say this and repeat it. The score varies wildly depending on the situation you're in and what you're summoning. Different utility.